Captain Dae-hyun sat in the commander's chair of the warship Indomitable. The bridge was dark except for the soft glow of display screens. His crew worked in silence, every person focused on their task. They had trained for this mission for 2 months, ever since General Tae-young approved Operation Reckoning. Now the waiting was over. "Status report," Dae-hyun said quietly. Lieutenant Subin checked her tactical display. She was young, barely 25, but she had a gift for seeing patterns in chaos. "All ships in position, Captain. The Ghost Fleet is ready. 200 vessels holding formation. Stealth systems operating at full capacity. The Velkari still don't see us." Dae-hyun allowed himself a small smile. The Velkari thought they were so advanced, so superior to primitive humans. They never imagined humanity could adapt their technology and improve it. Hyejin and her engineering teams had done the impossible. They took Velkari stealth technology and combined it with human innovations. The result was ships that could hide in plain sight, invisible to even the most sophisticated sensors. "Target package?" Dae-hyun asked. "Velkari Supply Depot at Grid 773, Subin replied. 18 cargo ships, 12 escorts, minimal defensive positions. They think they're safe in their own territory. They're about to learn otherwise. All ships begin attack run. Remember the timing. We hit them fast, we hit them hard, and we disappear before they can respond. No survivors. No witnesses." The Ghost Fleet moved through space like shadows. They crossed into Velkari territory without triggering a single alarm. The supply depot appeared on their screens, brightly lit and completely undefended. Velkari workers loaded cargo containers, unaware of the death surrounding them. "Weapons charged and locked," Subin reported. Firing in 3, 2, 1, the Indomitable's railguns opened fire. Solid projectiles moving at a fraction of light speed tore through the cargo ships. The other vessels in the Ghost Fleet fired simultaneously. The supply depot exploded in a cascade of destruction. Fuel tanks ignited. Ammunition stores detonated. Within 30 seconds, nothing remained but debris and corpses floating in space. "All ships execute evasion pattern Delta. Disappear," Dae-hyun ordered. The Ghost Fleet scattered, each ship going silent and invisible again. By the time Velkari defense forces arrived at the depot, there was nothing to find. No enemy ships. No energy signatures. Just destruction and questions. Over the next 3 weeks, the Ghost Fleet struck 17 more targets. Mining colonies went dark. Transport convoys vanished. Military outposts stopped transmitting. The Velkari couldn't understand how they were being attacked. Their sensors detected nothing. Their patrols found nothing. Enemy ships appeared from nowhere, destroyed everything, and disappeared like ghosts. Fear spread through the Velkari Empire like a virus. Ship captains refused to travel alone. Colonists demanded military protection. The government tried to suppress the reports, but rumors spread faster than lies. Humans were hunting them. Humans were making them pay for the attack on Earth. On SciFiPrime, the Empire's homeworld, High Chancellor Velknar held an emergency meeting with his military commanders. He was a tall being with purple scales and eyes that glowed with anger. He had been the architect of Earth's destruction. He had convinced the Council that humanity needed to be crushed. Now his empire was bleeding from invisible wounds. "How can a defeated species do this?" he roared. "We destroyed their fleets. We occupied their colonies. They should be broken." "We underestimated them, Chancellor," one of his advisors said carefully. "Humans learn quickly. They adapt. They took our technology and made it better. Then find them. Use every sensor we have. Send more ships." "We've tried, Chancellor. They're using our own tactics against us. They strike where we're weak and avoid where we're strong. They're fighting like—" The advisor hesitated. "Like what?" "Like predators, Chancellor. We're not fighting a military. We're being hunted." Velknar wanted to execute the advisor for defeatism, but he knew the words were true. His empire was the predator, not the prey. This reversal was intolerable. Meanwhile, Commander Hyunwoo led a different kind of operation. He had survived the orbital station attack through sheer luck and stubbornness. Now he commanded special operations teams that infiltrated Velkari installations. While the Ghost Fleet attacked from space, Hyunwoo's teams struck from within. They sabotaged power plants. They corrupted computer systems. They destroyed supply lines. Most importantly, they made everything look like accidents or internal failures. A reactor malfunction here, a computer virus there. The Velkari started suspecting each other, wondering if they had traitors in their ranks. Hyunwoo's current mission was particularly important. His team had infiltrated a Velkari research station studying human physiology. The Velkari had been experimenting on human prisoners, trying to understand humanity's rapid adaptation capabilities. Yunwu had seen the reports. He had seen what they did to his people. "Commander, we're in position," one of his soldiers whispered through the communication link. 12 scientists, 6 guards. We can neutralize them silently." "Do it," Yunwu replied coldly. His team moved through the station like ghosts, trained in every form of combat. Enhanced with captured alien technology, they were humanity's finest warriors. The Velkari guards died without making a sound. The scientists tried to surrender, begging for mercy in their alien language. Yunwu thought about the human prisoners who begged for mercy in this very station. He thought about how the Velkari ignored those pleas. He gave his team the signal. No survivors. They downloaded all the research data, then set the station to self-destruct. Another accident. Another mystery for the Velkari to puzzle over. Back on the Indomitable, Captain Daehyun received new orders from General Taeyang. The Ghost Fleet had hurt the Velkari Empire badly, but it was time to send a stronger message. It was time to hit them where they felt safest. "Plot a course for SciFiPrime," Daehyun ordered. Lieutenant Subin looked shocked. "Captain, that's the heart of their empire. The defenses there are massive. Thousands of ships, planetary shields, orbital weapons platforms. It's suicide." "That's what they'll think too," Daehyun replied, "which is why they won't expect it. Send the coordinates to all Ghost Fleet ships. We attack in 48 hours. As the fleet prepared for its most daring mission, something happened that changed the war. A transmission appeared on every Velkari communication channel simultaneously. Civilian screens, military displays, government networks all showed the same image. Ambassador Jiwon's face appeared, but she wasn't wearing diplomatic robes anymore. She wore combat armor marked with Earth's flag. "People of the Velkari Empire," she said in their language, perfectly translated. 3 months ago, your leaders attacked my world. They killed millions of innocent people. They destroyed our colonies. They did this with the Galactic Council's approval, believing we were too weak to respond. Her voice remained calm, but her eyes burned with controlled fury. "You wanted humanity silent. You wanted us defeated. You wanted us to disappear quietly into extinction. We are not silent. We are not defeated, and we are not disappearing. We are hunting you." The transmission showed footage of destroyed Velkari installations, ships exploding, colonies burning. All the secret attacks that the Velkari government tried to hide from its population. The people of SciFiPrime watched in horror as they realized their empire was losing. "Your leaders started this war," Jiwon continued. "They made the rules. They chose brutality over mercy. Now they will learn that humans can be brutal too. And we're just getting started." The transmission ended. Panic swept through SciFiPrime. Citizens demanded answers from their government. How bad was the situation? Were humans coming for the homeworld? High Chancellor Velkanar tried to calm them, promising that defenses would hold, that humanity was just making empty threats. He was wrong. 2 days later, the Ghost Fleet emerged from stealth near SciFiPrime. 200 human warships appeared on sensors like death itself, materializing from nothing. The Velkari defense fleet scrambled to respond, but they were facing an enemy that had learned from every previous battle. "All ships, execute attack pattern Omega," Daehyun ordered. "Target the orbital weapons platforms first. Make them understand what we can do." The battle began. Human railguns fired, exploiting the shield weaknesses that Hyejin had discovered. Velkari ships exploded. The platforms that the Velkari had built to bombard Earth turned their weapons against Velkari military installations, hijacked by human electronic warfare specialists. Lieutenant Subin coordinated the attack with terrifying precision. She saw patterns in the chaos, predicted Velkari responses, and countered them before they could execute. The Ghost Fleet danced through the defensive formations like sharks through fish. "Captain, High Chancellor Velkanar's flagship is trying to escape the system," Subin reported. "Disable it. Don't destroy it. We want him alive," Daehyun replied. 3 Ghost Fleet ships broke formation and pursued the flagship. They fired precisely, taking out engines and weapons but leaving life support intact. The flagship went dead in space, helpless. General Taeyang watched the holographic display showing real-time positions of human military forces across the galaxy. Red markers indicated active combat operations. There were 73 red markers. 73 simultaneous attacks against species that had conspired against Earth. The scale of the operation was staggering, but humanity had learned something important from the Velkari attack. Strike everywhere at once and the enemy couldn't respond effectively anywhere. "General, the Thorani fleet is breaking formation," one of his officers reported. "They're retreating from the Tau Ceti system. Let them run. Make sure they spread the word about what happens when you betray humanity," Taeyang replied. The war had expanded beyond the Velkari Empire. Every species that participated in the conspiracy was now a target. Dr. Young Mi had identified them all from Counselor Vexthor's leaked recordings. 12 species knew about the plan. 6 more gave their approval. All 18 were paying the price. Human forces didn't try to conquer territory. They didn't need to. They struck military targets, destroyed fleets, and disappeared. Each attack demonstrated that humanity's technology had surpassed their enemies. Faster engines, stronger weapons, better tactics. The species that called humans primitive were learning a painful lesson. Sukja moved through the bridge of the warship carrying her camera equipment. She was a war correspondent, documenting everything for the historical record. More importantly, she was broadcasting everything to the galaxy. Every species could watch humanity's revenge in real time. Some called it propaganda. She called it truth. "General, do you have any statement about the Braxian surrender?" she asked, pointing her camera at Taeyang. "The Braxian government has agreed to our terms. They will pay reparations to human victims, hand over their military leadership for trial, and submit to monitoring for the next 50 years. This is the price of their participation in the attack on Earth. Some species are calling humanity's response excessive. They say you're becoming the monsters you're fighting against." Taeyang looked directly into the camera. "We didn't start this war. We asked for peace. We followed the Council's rules. They responded by trying to exterminate us. Now they complain that we fight back too effectively. We're not interested in their opinions. We're interested in justice." The door to the bridge opened and Ambassador Ji-Wan entered. She had spent the last month traveling between battlefronts, coordinating diplomatic efforts while military operations continued. She looked exhausted but determined. "General, the Council has called an emergency session. They want to negotiate. What are the terms?" Taeyang asked. "They're offering to censure the Velkari Empire and impose economic sanctions. In exchange, they want us to cease all military operations and accept Council mediation." Taeyang's expression darkened. "Censure? Sanctions? They helped plan genocide against humanity, and they think we'll accept a diplomatic slap on the wrist." "That's what I told them," Ji-Wan replied with a cold smile. "So I'm going to the Council station. But I'm not going alone." 2 days later, the Council station appeared on long-range sensors. It was a massive structure, a symbol of galactic unity and cooperation. Representatives from 47 species worked there, supposedly maintaining peace and justice. The station had existed for 3,000 years without ever being threatened. That was about to change. Ambassador Ji-Wan's shuttle approached the station, but it wasn't alone. 200 human warships surrounded the station in a perfect sphere. Every weapon was armed. Every shield was active. The message was clear. Humanity was done asking for permission. Inside the council chamber, representatives from all species gathered nervously. They had watched human forces tear through military installations across the galaxy. They had seen species that once seemed powerful beg for mercy. Now the humans were at their doorstep. Ji-Wan walked into the chamber, but she didn't walk alone. Behind her, 20 human marines in full combat armor followed. Their weapons were powered down but ready. The symbolism was impossible to miss. Humanity had come armed to a diplomatic meeting. She wore combat armor instead of diplomatic robes. Scorch marks from battle decorated the metal plates. She looked like a warrior, not an ambassador, because that's what she had become. "Honorable Council," she began, her voice echoing through the chamber. 4 months ago, I stood here and begged for your help. Earth was under attack. Millions were dying. I showed you evidence. I followed your procedures. I believed in your justice." She paused, looking at each species representative in turn. "You conspired against us. You approved the attack. You stood silent while the Velkari tried to exterminate humanity. And now, after we've defended ourselves, you dare to call us to negotiate." The council chair, the floating crystal being, tried to maintain authority. "Ambassador Ji-Wan, the council understands your anger, but violence cannot be answered with more violence. We must find a peaceful resolution. Peaceful? G1's voice rose. You want to lecture us about peace? Where was peace when Velkari weapons murdered my people? Where was peace when you ignored our distress calls? Where was peace when you conspired to divide our resources among yourselves? She activated a holographic projector. The leaked recordings from Councillor Vexthor played for everyone to hear. Council representatives discussing Earth's destruction like it was a business transaction. Voices planning genocide while congratulating themselves on their cleverness. Several species representatives looked shocked. They hadn't known about the conspiracy, but others looked guilty, caught in their own words. Every species involved in this conspiracy is named in these recordings. G1 continued. We have documented evidence of your crimes. You are war criminals, and we are here to deliver justice that you cannot arrest council representatives, the chair protested. We have diplomatic immunity. General Taeyang's voice came through the chamber's communication system. Immunity is a privilege you extended to yourselves. We do not recognize it. You attacked our species outside the bounds of law. We respond outside the bounds of your corrupt system. Human Marines moved through the station. They arrested representatives from the 18 conspiring species. Some tried to resist. Some begged. Some claimed they were just following orders. The humans didn't care. They had learned from human history that following evil orders didn't excuse evil actions. Councillor Vexthor watched the arrests without interfering. He had risked everything to expose the conspiracy. Now he saw the corrupt order he had served crumbling. Several other species representatives joined him, refusing to defend the criminals. This is an act of war against the entire council, the Thorani representative shouted. Ambassador G1 walked up to him. No, this is justice. Your species participated in the conspiracy. Your fleets attacked human colonies. Now your leaders will face trial. If you want to declare war over that, try it. See how well it works out for you. The Thorani representative looked at the armed Marines, then at the 200 warships visible through the station's windows. He sat down and said nothing more. The council chair tried one more time. The council will not accept this violation of established order. The council is dissolved, G1 interrupted. Your authority is based on member species accepting your legitimacy. As of this moment, 23 species have withdrawn from the council. They recognize that this organization is corrupt beyond repair. The rest of you can keep meeting if you want, but you're no longer relevant. She was right. Over the past week, species that opposed the conspiracy had secretly communicated with Earth. They were ready for a new system, one that didn't protect genocidal conspiracies. Humanity had found allies among the stars, species that valued actual justice over convenient stability. What happens now? Councillor Vexthor asked quietly. Now we take the criminals back to Earth for trial, G1 replied. They will be judged by human law, the same law they tried to erase from existence, and then we build something better. Outside the station, the Ghost Fleet maintained its position. Captain Daehyun watched as shuttles carried prisoners back to human ships. High Chancellor Velkanar was among them, in restraints, his purple scales dulled by defeat. Captain, the Velkari Empire is broadcasting a message, Lieutenant Subin reported. They're offering to surrender completely. They want to hand over Velkanar as a war criminal in exchange for peace. Too late, Daehyun replied. We already have him. And they don't get to negotiate the terms of their surrender. We do. The message humanity sent back was simple. The Velkari Empire would be dissolved. Its territory would be divided into independent systems, monitored by neutral species. Every member of the military leadership would face trial. The species that called themselves superior would learn what it meant to lose everything. News of the council station arrests spread across the galaxy within hours. Sukja made sure every species saw the footage, saw the evidence, saw humanity's power. Some species condemned the action, but many more stayed silent, calculating whether they wanted to be humanity's enemy or ally. In the bunker beneath Seoul, Dr. Young-mi analyzed the galaxy's response. General, we're receiving communication requests from 16 species. They want to discuss a new galactic organization, one based on equality and accountability. 3 weeks had passed since the attack. The world ambassador Ji-won once knew was gone. She worked from an underground bunker deep beneath Seoul's ruins. The bunker had been built during the old wars between nations back when humans only fought each other. Now it served as Earth's emergency government headquarters. The casualty reports kept coming. 4.7 million dead in the first day. Another 2 million died in the weeks that followed from injuries, collapsed infrastructure, and failed life support in the colonies. Refugee camps stretched across every continent. Billions of people had lost their homes. The Velkari occupation forces held the asteroid belt, Luna Base, and Mars. They patrolled Earth's orbit like predators circling wounded prey. G1 had sent 47 formal appeals to the Galactic Council. Each one detailed the Velkari war crimes. Each one included evidence of the unprovoked attack. Each one begged for intervention. The responses were bureaucratic nonsense. Your appeal is under review. Please submit proper documentation. This matter requires committee evaluation. They were stalling. They wanted humanity to die slowly. General Taeyang entered the bunker's command center. He was a broad-shouldered man with gray hair and eyes that had seen too much death. He had been retired, living quietly on Jeju Island when the attack came. Now he commanded what remained of Earth's military forces. Ambassador, we've received another transmission from Counselor Vexthor, he said quietly. Vexthor was an Althani, a species that looked like tall, thin beings covered in blue scales. Unlike the other council members, he had spoken against the attack. Not loudly enough to matter, but he had tried. Now he was secretly sending information to Earth. Jiwan opened the encrypted message. Her hands trembled as she read. The message contained recordings from closed council sessions that were supposed to be sealed forever. She listened to alien voices discussing Earth's fate like it was a business transaction. The humans have developed faster than projected, one voice said. Their technology adapts at an alarming rate. In another century, they could challenge the established order. Better to cripple them now while we can claim justification, another agreed. The Velkari will take the blame. We maintain our image as peacekeepers. What about the human casualties? A timid voice asked. Acceptable losses. They breed quickly. The survivors will be too traumatized to resist. We'll offer them charity in exchange for compliance. G1 stopped the recording. She felt sick. They had planned everything. The treaty was a trap. The Velkari attack was approved by the Council itself. Humanity had been set up to fail. How many species were involved? General Taeyang asked. Dr. Youngmi looked up from her analysis station. She had survived the orbital station attack barely. Half her face was scarred from burns, but her mind was sharper than ever. 12 species knew about the plan in advance. Another 6 gave passive approval. Only 8 species on the Council opposed it. The general's jaw tightened. 18 species that betrayed us. I want names, locations, military capabilities. Already compiling the data, Youngmi replied. Across the bunker, a civilian named He-Jin worked with a team of engineers. She had survived the Mars colony attack by hiding in a mining tunnel for 6 days. She had watched her friends die through security cameras, unable to help them. Now she worked 20-hour days reverse engineering captured Velkari technology. Every ship they destroyed, every piece of equipment they salvaged, she tore it apart to understand how it worked. General, you need to see this, He-Jin called out. She projected a hologram of a Velkari warship. Their shield generators have a fatal flaw. There's a 0.4-second delay when the shields refresh. If we hit them with coordinated strikes during that window, we can punch through. Taeyang studied the design. Can we build weapons fast enough to exploit this? We already have, He-Jin said with a grim smile. The factories in Australia and South Africa have been working non-stop. We've converted civilian manufacturing to military production. We're not making ships as fancy as theirs, but we're making them fast. Jiwan watched her people work. They were exhausted, traumatized, and outnumbered. But they hadn't given up. Humanity had a talent for surviving impossible situations. They thrived on spite when nothing else remained. General Taeyang approached her with a data pad. Ambassador, I need your approval for this. She read the document. It was a military operation plan called Operation Reckoning. As she read the details, her blood ran cold. It was brutal. It was vicious. It violated every principle of warfare she had learned in diplomatic school. It was also the only way they would survive. If we do this, the galaxy will call us monsters, she whispered. They already destroyed our world, Taeyang replied. They ignored our pleas. They conspired to break us. I'm not interested in their opinions anymore. Jiwan thought about the 4.7 million dead. She thought about children who lost parents. She thought about the refugee camps where people starved while the council debated procedure. She signed the authorization. "One more thing," she said. "I want to make one final appeal to the council." Tae Yang looked confused. "Why, they won't help us, and I know. But I want them to hear what's coming." 2 days later, Ji-won transmitted her 48th appeal to the council. She knew they would gather to watch, probably amused by humanity's continued desperation. She wore her formal diplomatic robes, but her face showed no diplomacy. "Honorable members of the Galactic Council," she began, "for 3 weeks I have appealed to your sense of justice. I have provided evidence. I have followed your procedures. I have begged for the mercy you claim to represent." She paused, letting her words sink in. "You have responded with silence and betrayal. We now understand that your council exists not to maintain peace but to maintain your power. You saw humanity as a threat to that power, so you orchestrated our destruction." The council chamber was silent. No one interrupted her. "I stand before you one final time, not to beg but to inform. We came to you as friends. We asked for justice as allies. You chose to be something else. Very well. Humanity will remember what you chose. We will remember every species that participated. We will remember every species that stood silent." Her voice dropped to a whisper that somehow felt louder than a shout. "You wanted to see humans broken. You wanted us to accept subjugation. But you made a mistake. You didn't finish the job, and now you've given us nothing left to lose." She terminated the transmission. Across Earth, military forces mobilized. The orbital shipyards that survived were building vessels around the clock. Soldiers trained in the ruins of cities. Scientists worked on weapons that made even General Tae Yang uncomfortable. Every human who could fight was preparing to fight. Every human who could build was building. Every human who could think was planning. The council sent a response to Ji-won's speech. They called it theatrical and desperate. They assured their member species that humanity was defeated and would be pacified soon. The Valkyrie requested additional forces to secure Earth permanently. But something strange started happening. Earth's communication networks went completely silent. No broadcasts, no transmissions, no signals of any kind. From space, the planet looked dead. The Valkyrie sent scout ships to investigate. The ships entered orbit and never returned. They sent more ships. Same result. The council grew nervous. What was happening down there? In the bunker, General Tae Yang watched displays showing military readiness across the globe. Every piece was in position. Operation Reckoning was ready to begin. "Are we really doing this?" Young-mi asked quietly. "They destroyed our world and called it justified," Tae Yang replied. "They conspired against us and called it politics. They expect us to die quietly. Yes, we're doing this." Ji-won stood beside him, no longer wearing diplomatic robes. She wore combat armor, modified to fit her frame. "When do we begin?" "Tonight," Tae Yang said. "The Ghost Fleet launches at midnight. By dawn, the Valkyrie will learn what humans are truly capable of." High above Earth, the Valkyrie occupation forces celebrated another day of easy victory. They had crushed humanity's spirit. They had proven the Council's wisdom. They relaxed their guard, confident in their superiority. They didn't see the ships rising from Earth's night side. Hundreds of vessels running completely silent, using technology that made them invisible to Valkyrie sensors. The Ghost Fleet was hunting, and its prey had no idea death was coming. Commander Hyunwoo stood at the observation deck of the orbital station, watching Earth rotate peacefully below. 15 years had passed since humanity joined the Galactic Council. 15 years of learning, trading, and building relationships with alien species across the stars. He should have felt proud, but something gnawed at his gut. The Valkyrie ships near Jupiter were moving in patterns that made no sense for a mining operation. Ambassador Ji-won had signed the treaty 3 months ago. The Valkyrie Empire wanted to help Earth develop the asteroid belt. They had better technology and experience. It seemed like a fair partnership. The council had approved it unanimously. Everyone smiled and shook hands, or whatever appendages the aliens had. Hyunwoo remembered the ceremony. He remembered how the Valkyrie representative barely looked at Ji-won when speaking. Like she was beneath him. "Commander, you need to see this." Dr. Young-mi's voice crackled through his communication device. She sounded worried. Hyunwoo made his way through the station's corridors. Crew members nodded as he passed. They trusted him. They trusted the system. He found Young-mi in her lab, surrounded by holographic displays showing strings of alien text. I've been monitoring Velkari communications like you asked, she said, not looking up from her work. They're using encryption, but I managed to decode some fragments. Hyunwoo, they're not here to mine. They're mapping our defenses. His blood ran cold. Are you certain? Look at this. She pulled up a star chart. Red dots marked Velkari ship positions. They formed a perfect perimeter around Earth's space. These aren't mining formations. This is a blockade waiting to happen. Hyunwoo immediately sent a report to the council. He marked it urgent. He included all of Young Mi's findings. He waited for a response. 6 hours later, a message arrived from Council Central. They thanked him for his concern but assured him the Velkari were trustworthy members of the council for over 300 years. They suggested humans were still adjusting to galactic politics and shouldn't jump to conclusions. The message ended with a reminder that humanity was still a junior species with limited authority. He tried reaching Ambassador Ji-won directly. She was in a council meeting and couldn't be disturbed. He sent the data to Captain Dae-hyun at Luna Base. Dae-hyun responded immediately, putting his fleet on quiet alert. Nothing obvious, just readiness. 3 days passed. The Velkari ships moved closer. Hyunwoo stopped sleeping. Young Mi worked around the clock trying to decode more messages. Then at 0347 hours Earth Standard Time, every alarm on the station screamed at once. The attack came from everywhere simultaneously. Velkari warships dropped their peaceful disguises and opened fire. The orbital stations around Earth exploded like fireworks. Hyunwoo watched through the viewport as the station next to his shattered, spilling bodies and debris into space. He could see people tumbling, their suits breached, dying in the vacuum. "All hands, battle stations," he shouted, but the station was already dying. Power flickered. The artificial gravity failed. People floated, screaming, trying to reach escape pods. Luna Base transmitted frantic messages. The Velkari hit them with plasma weapons that melted the colony domes. Thousands died instantly. The Mars settlements went silent within minutes. Captain Dae-hyun's fleet fought back, but they were outnumbered 5-1. His ships fell one by one, brave but overwhelmed. Hyunwoo pulled himself through zero gravity toward the command center. Half his crew was dead. The other half was dying. He grabbed the emergency transmitter and sent a distress call to the council. "This is Commander Hyunwoo of Earth Defense Force. We are under unprovoked attack by Velkari forces. Requesting immediate assistance." "Repeat, requesting immediate assistance." No response came. He sent it again. And again. Nothing but silence from the council. On Earth below, the Velkari targeted major cities from orbit. Energy beams cut through the atmosphere, striking military bases and civilian centers alike. Seoul burned. Beijing turned to rubble. New York's skyline collapsed into the harbor. The death toll climbed into the millions within the first hour. Ambassador Ji-won had been in the council chamber when the attack began. She demanded they intervene. She showed them the destruction in real time. The council members looked at her with what could only be described as cold indifference. The Velkari representative stood and claimed Earth had violated territorial agreements. He presented fabricated evidence that humanity had been secretly building weapons in the asteroid belt. "This is insane," Ji-won shouted. "You approved this treaty yourselves. You watched us follow every rule." The council chair, a being that looked like a floating crystal, spoke in a voice that echoed with authority. "The council has reviewed the Velkari claims and finds them credible. This is a bilateral dispute. We cannot interfere in matters between member species." Ji-won understood in that moment. They had planned this. The council wanted humanity crushed. They had let the Velkari do their dirty work. Humans had climbed too high too fast. They had made the older species uncomfortable with their adaptability and ambition. She left the chamber with tears of rage streaming down her face. Back on the dying orbital station, Hyunwoo held onto a broken railing as explosions tore through the hull. He could see Earth below, fires dotting the night side like terrible stars. He thought about his family in Busan. He didn't know if they were alive. He thought about all the people who trusted the council, who believed in galactic peace and cooperation, a Velkari boarding craft attached to the station's hull. They were coming to finish the job. Hyunwoo pulled out his sidearm, a primitive weapon by galactic standards, but all he had. He had maybe 5 minutes before the hull breach. He recorded a message on his personal device. His hands shook, but his voice stayed steady. "This is Commander Hyunwoo. If anyone finds this, know that we trusted them. We came in peace. We followed their rules, and they destroyed us for it." He paused, hearing the Velkari cutting through the hull. "But if any humans survive this, remember what they did. Remember that they showed us no mercy. They wanted to see what humans do when pushed to the edge. They're about to find out." The hull exploded inward. Hyun-woo fired his weapon at the shapes coming through the breach. He didn't know if he hit anything. He didn't know if it mattered. The station was dying, and he was dying with it. But somewhere in the back of his mind, even as consciousness faded, he held on to one thought. Humans were survivors. They had clawed their way up from caves to space. They had endured ice ages, plagues, and wars. And if any of them lived through this day, the galaxy would learn what humanity truly was. Not a junior species. Not a weak species, but a species that would burn the stars themselves before accepting extinction. 1 year had passed since the Velkari attack. Ambassador Ji-won stood at the window of her new office, looking out at the rebuilt skyline of Seoul. The city still bore scars from the orbital bombardment, but humanity had proven remarkably good at rebuilding. They always had been. Every time history knocked them down, they stood back up. Today was important. Representatives from 31 alien species were gathering for the founding ceremony of the reformed Galactic Assembly. Not a council, not a hierarchy. An assembly where every voice carried equal weight and every species faced equal accountability. Dr. Young Mi entered the office carrying a data pad. Her burn scars had healed somewhat, though she would carry them for life. She wore them like medals. "Ambassador, the trials are complete. The verdicts are being announced in an hour." "All of them?" Ji-won asked. "Yes. High Chancellor Velknar and the Council Triumvirate, plus 73 other individuals charged with conspiracy, war crimes, and genocide. The judges have reached their decisions," Ji-won nodded. The trials had lasted 6 months. Human courts, human law, human justice. The accused had been given fair trials, something they never gave humanity. They had lawyers. They had the right to present evidence. They had every protection human law offered. It didn't save them. The evidence was overwhelming. In the courtroom, High Chancellor Velknar stood in restraints as the judge read the verdict. He looked smaller now, his purple scales dull and faded. The being who once commanded an empire was just a war criminal facing justice. "The court finds you guilty on all counts," the judge declared. "Conspiracy to commit genocide. Mass murder. War crimes against civilian populations. You orchestrated the deaths of millions of innocent people. The sentence is life imprisonment without possibility of parole." Velknar said nothing. What could he say? The evidence was in his own communications, his own orders, his own words celebrating humanity's suffering. The Council Triumvirate received the same sentence. 73 military officers and government officials joined them. Earth had built a special facility to hold alien prisoners, maximum security, humane conditions. But they would never leave. Some species protested the trials. They called it Victor's Justice. Ji-won addressed those complaints directly in a broadcast to the galaxy. "Justice delayed is justice denied," she said, facing the camera. "These individuals committed genocide. They conspired to exterminate an entire species. If we had relied on the old council system, they would have escaped accountability through diplomatic immunity and political protection. So yes, we applied our own law, the same law we apply to human criminals. If that makes us harsh, we accept that judgment." At the assembly gathering, Councillor Vexthor waited nervously. He had been chosen as Deputy Secretary General, humanity's closest alien ally. His species, the Althani, had stood against the conspiracy from the beginning. Now they helped build something better. General Tae-yang arrived in full military dress. He had officially retired again, but everyone knew that was just for appearance. He commanded Earth's military forces, and everyone respected that reality. His presence at the ceremony was a reminder. The assembly would have rules, and there would be consequences for breaking them. Captain Dae-hyun attended as well, representing the Ghost Fleet. The fleet had been reorganized into the Assembly Peacekeeping Force with human ships forming the core. Other species were contributing vessels, but everyone understood who had real military power in the galaxy now. Young diplomat Jae-hee stood beside Ji-won, watching the alien representatives arrive. She was 23 years old. She had been in university when the Velkari attacked. She watched her campus burn from orbit. Now she represented humanity's future, a generation that grew up knowing the galaxy could be cruel. "Ambassador, Do you think they'll really follow the rules? Jae-hee asked quietly. Some will, some won't, Ji-won replied honestly. But now there are consequences. The Assembly Charter makes it clear. Any species that commits genocide, starts unprovoked wars, or violates sentient rights faces military intervention. No more diplomatic immunity. No more looking the other way. The ceremony began. Representatives from 31 species signed the Assembly Charter. Each signature was a promise, a commitment to equality, justice, and accountability. 16 more species had requested to join and were undergoing the application process. The old council's territory had fractured. Some species maintained independence, others formed smaller alliances. But the reformed Galactic Assembly was becoming the dominant power in the galaxy, not through conquest but through the promise of real justice. Ji-won gave the opening address. She spoke in clear, simple language that translators could easily convert to any alien tongue. 1 year ago, my species faced extinction. Millions of humans died in an unprovoked attack. We asked for help and received betrayal. We were expected to accept subjugation or death. We chose neither. She looked at each species representative. Humanity fought back. We fought brutally. We fought without mercy. We made our enemies pay for every drop of blood they spilled. Some of you call us savage. Some of you fear us. Good, you should fear us. Not because we seek domination, but because we will never again be victims. The room was silent. Every representative listened. But fear is not the foundation of this assembly. Justice is. Equality is. Accountability is. Every species here has equal voice. Every species faces equal consequences. The strong cannot prey on the weak. The old cannot suppress the new. And if anyone tries, they will answer to all of us. She gestured to General Tae-yang and Captain Dae-hyun. Earth's military will serve as the Assembly's enforcement arm, not because we want power, but because we've proven we can do what's necessary. We will protect peaceful species from aggression. We will respond to distress calls that the old council ignored, and we will not hesitate to use force against those who break the rules. Vexthor stood and added his voice. The old council failed because it protected the powerful at the expense of the weak. This assembly will not make that mistake. The charter we've created binds everyone equally. No species is above the law. The ceremony continued with each species pledging support. Some were sincere, others were calculating, deciding that alignment with Earth was better than opposition. Ji-won accepted both. Sincerity would grow with time and trust. After the ceremony, Hye-jin gave Ji-won a tour of the new assembly headquarters. It was located on a neutral world, not on Earth. Humanity wanted to make it clear this wasn't about domination. The building was designed with input from multiple species, blending architectural styles to represent unity and diversity. Ambassador, we've established cultural exchange programs with 20 species, Hye-jin explained. Scientists sharing research, artists collaborating on projects, students studying on each other's worlds. We're trying to build understanding. That's good, Ji-won replied. Fear keeps the peace now, but we need more than fear. We need actual relationships. In the military command center, General Tae-yang briefed assembly representatives on defense protocols. A holographic display showed assembly ships patrolling key territories. We maintain rapid response forces in 12 sectors, he explained. Any distress call receives immediate military evaluation. If the threat is genuine, we respond within hours. The assembly will not fail species the way the council failed humanity. A representative from a small species raised their hand. General, some of us worry about human military dominance. What prevents Earth from using this power to enforce its will? Tae-yang looked at the representative with respect. It was a fair question. Transparency. Every military action is reviewed by the assembly. Every use of force is documented and justified. If humanity abuses this power, we face the same consequences as anyone else. The charter applies to everyone. And if humanity refuses to accept those consequences, the representative pressed, then we become what we fought against, Tae-yang said simply, and we deserve whatever happens next. But understand this, humanity has no desire to rule the galaxy. We want to live in peace. We're willing to fight to protect that peace, but we're not interested in conquest. We've seen where that leads. Meanwhile, Dr. Young-mi worked in the Xenobiology Research Center, collaborating with alien scientists. They were studying ways to improve medical treatments across species. It was slow work, rebuilding trust between humans and aliens, but it was happening. A Velkari scientist worked at the next station. His species had been humanity's enemy, but he was young, innocent of his government's crimes. He approached young me hesitantly. Dr. Young Me, I want to apologize for what my species did. I know words don't fix anything, but she looked at him, seeing genuine remorse in his alien features. Your species leaders made terrible choices. You didn't. Don't carry their guilt. Just do better. That's how we move forward. He nodded gratefully and returned to work. Small moments like this happened across the assembly, slowly, painfully. Different species were learning to see each other as individuals rather than stereotypes. On Luna, the memorial for the attack victims had become a pilgrimage site. Every assembly representative was required to visit once per year. It was written into the charter. They needed to see the names. They needed to understand the cost of their leaders' failures.